Knowledge building has been conceived of as a way to help students on that journey, as Nancy refers to it, to both learn our cultural heritage, the information that we gain, but also to produce new knowledge. And one of the most fascinating results that we have been finding in the last number of years is that if you work to produce new knowledge, you must learn. That is, it's impossible to identify new information and advance the field if you aren't substantially understanding information that's already available. So we think it's a powerhouse that can get you potentially both learning and innovation. Now, in order to understand this contrast, we've tried to talk about most of education works by there's some powerful task or activity the students are asked to engage in. And we call this the Tolmeg view of the curriculum because that task and activity, as best the student understands, is what they're in school to do. Their ideas, the many ideas they bring to this phenomena, are in the periphery, but not the central piece of what's to be dealt with. If you compare what we are calling the Copernican revolution that we think is needed, it's that those ideas of students need to become really central to what it is that they're exploring and able to advance. Now, that doesn't mean they ignore the tasks and activities. They need to make them commensurate with it, but they are working on their ideas, and they are able to advance those ideas the way people who generate new knowledge are able to. So, to take that into something that we can bring into the classroom, we try to capture children's ideas. They're oftentimes captured in an online environment so that they can be revisited. Now, this is not just an idea in my head, but an idea out there in the world, and somebody else can build on it, they can advance it. So I am, with other generations of innovators, somebody giving ideas out to the world to work on. Now, if we had to say in just one sentence, what is knowledge building about? We would say it is giving students collective responsibility for idea improvement. So the unsettled nature that scientists in any field or innovators in any field have about, yeah, we understand this, but there's some things out here that we don't understand. Students, too, would come to have that feeling. But also it would be an effective feeling. They would know that improving ideas is what they're about, and they would have collective responsibility for that. So I'll say more about how that would work. But I want to say then, just getting back to this theme of successful pedagogies, of course any successful education program will deal in some way with students' ideas. So what is so distinctive about knowledge building? And what we would say is the traditional instruction tends to ignore the ideas that students come in with and rely on the effective tasks and activities that they're to go through in order to accomplish the knowledge advancement. And this is true of, if you take our two very common approaches to educational change. The one is conceptual change, and here teachers learn to listen to students' ideas. But then, of course, the students have many misconceptions. They have many naive ideas. So in this sense, the teacher's idea is to contrast the student's idea to a more profound idea. So the teacher is responsible for creating that contrast. In guided discovery, we have these tasks set in sequence so the student gets to more and more advanced ideas. And you'll notice in both cases, it's the teacher who's responsible for advancing these ideas. Now, if we want students to take responsibility, we've got to turn over to them the power of identifying where there are gaps in understanding and where they need to move. So how do we get students engaged in this process? So as I suggested before, in order to do it, ideas have to have an out-in-the-world existence. They're out there. Somebody else can work with those ideas. I've got got to see your idea, and if it doesn't fit with my understanding, I say, oh, that's not the way I understand it. Here's some evidence. So I'm responsible not just for my own knowledge growth, but I'm responsible for our team's knowledge advance. So it's not just a belief that I have, it's the ideas in the world that we're trying to work with. Now we think that idea generation, just coming up with ideas, natural curiosity, getting those questions out, that comes pretty easily. What gets really hard is sustained improvement of ideas. So what are the structures for doing that? So the working assumption that we convey to students is that all ideas are improvable. Einstein's ideas have been improved, Darwin's ideas have been improved. They're on a journey. It's the journey of idea improvement.